talk, real talk, real talk, real talk, real talk.
Welcome to Real Talk for Real Teens, the show where we uniquely combine the information teens need with the entertainment teens want.
Hi guys, welcome to the new format of the show. This is Real Talk for Real Teens, and as always, I am your host, Ken Creighton. And in the past year, we've been focusing on the issues, problems, concerns that face young people. And so right now, I'm taking a moment, I'm going to pivot. And what I'm doing is pivoting, and this is what happens in real life. I'm going to pivot, and we're going to talk about opportunities instead of problems. And we're going to I'm going to start focusing on bringing people to the show who can give you insight into how they deal with those 21st century skills that people say that you guys need to have. So today my guest is Lynn Thompson. And Lynn, introduce yourself to my audience.
Well, hello. Hi, everyone. I'm Lynn Thompson. I'm what's known as a creative maven. I brand businesses and people and help guide them toward a professional face. What people see and what people know them for. I help them put that together visually and conceptually, using my creativity and the skills that they own.
All right, let's dive right into this. As you guys know, we're just going to have a conversation. So as you've hit on a lot of things, you talked about the perception or the faith that people are intentionally coming to you to develop a space for their businesses, for them as a persona, how they want to be viewed in the business world. And you're using your creative skills to make that happen for somebody. So tell us how a typical day would go for you. I mean, how would somebody find you? What would be the first conversations? And how would you use your creativity skills? Well, first, let's back up. Tell me how you think you developed your creativity skills, and then we'll get into that.
Well, Kim, I can't honestly say that I did anything to get the skill. It was something that I've always had. And when I originally was going to school, I really thought I wanted to be a pediatrician. I guess my brain had another skill set, and I went into not music, but art. And for me, I grasped that in high school, I just needed to get away from all those technical, hard thinking subjects and took an art class and fell in love.
Okay.
And as my creativity just started to develop, it just kind of went from there. When I sit down and I talk to someone who has a love or a passion for whatever it is they do, whether it be music or writing or books or even art, my brain just kind of gets the concept of who they are and how they approach their creativity, which kind of helps me take building blocks to put together words and a visualization of who they actually are. So I kind of relax and just absorb their essence. I guess that's the only way I can put it. I really sample, for instance, their music or their writing, and from doing that, it just comes together. And of course, I collaborate and work together with that person to kind of make sure that I'm on track and they're comfortable with and it shows their true self, their true creative self. It just goes goes like that. So I can't really say that I actually did anything except for just follow the path, and it just led me along.
Okay, we're going to take, I'm going to do a quick break, and then when we come back, what I want you to do, if that's the case, tell us how you define creativity. So let's take this quick little break, and then just tell us for yourself, how do you define creativity?
Okay.
Follow us on Facebook at Real Talk for Real Teens and on Twitter at RTFRT Radio.
All right. So now we're back, and we're still talking to Lynn Thompson about creativity. And the question on the table is, because, and I can so appreciate what you're saying, because I've always had that left brain, right brain, I thought was a conflict, because what people typically consider creative and intellectual, I had that, I couldn't be put in a box. So I really appreciate what you're saying about being, just needing a break from all the technical, factors, and then finding your bliss in art. So tell me, how do you define creativity?
Kim, that's a very broad and hard question. It really is. Creativity is not only about painting. It's not only about creating music. There's so many different ways to define creativity. My personal definition is, if you have a vision, to me that is a creative event. For some people, it may be taking a technical company from like Apple, in the garage, to one of the most well-known brands in the world. They started out with computers, and now they have phones. So that takes a creative bent to be able to take what you have and make something out of it. If you, for instance, can think of an idea on a cupcake, well, a couple years ago, they came up with cupcake pops. So you went from a cupcake to actually a piece of cake on a lollipop stick. That's creative.
Exactly. And that's what I want. And I think I'll be moving forward, asking people when they come on to define, because everybody has their own definition of these things, of these skills. And it's very interesting. I want young people to hear how different people define different things, and it doesn't all fit in a neat little box.
It really doesn't. It really doesn't.
Because you could have been a very creative pediatrician. And that it's not all about art and music, and some people might say creativity is a lifestyle, or a way of how they just see different projects, and they just have they see that one thread that's out of place, where to them is in the right place, and other people see it out of place. That's what they would consider creative. So tell me, so you have this business, and you help with the aid of or collaboration with your clients, you create this space. Give us an example of one hypothetical, how you go through that process.
Well, someone would come to me, and they may have a skill. I'm trying to think of something that I can share that, won't compromise someone.
Yeah, and that's what I said. And that's what I said, hypothetical. Well, you're just talking generalities. You don't have to be specific.
Yeah. Why don't we do that? And in the case of, say someone has an idea, and behind their idea is their expertise. I'm going to just grab someone who bakes cakes, because I think that's an easy one. They may come in, and of course, you've got hundreds and hundreds and thousands of people who cook, bake cakes. The world is full of famous chefs And so that person would come to me and we'd sit down and talk, and I would actually pull from them their, what I would call their essence. So somebody might decide that they love just baking pies. So what I would do is try and pull out of them the essence of what makes them love pies, and try and communicate that love to other people who would either read their recipe or would want their recipes or would want to know what ingredients that person would use to make pies so special, or even buy a pie from that person. So it really is built, the creativity is built on the expertise that that person has. And taking that expertise and putting it into a very personalized format that will communicate. When you see that person show up, all the things that they are, you would actually see visually, and you would sense that. And in talking to them and seeing their work and tasting their work even, that would help me create their essence or their visual brand through my creativity and theirs.
So for you, it's a multi-sensory process. I guess that's the best word I can say. So, because you were talking about what people hear, what people see, what people may taste, that kind of thing. And if it's something that's tangible, something people might touch, play with. Absolutely. And, you know, the thing about creativity, and I do want to kind of connect it a little bit to marketing, because it takes it off into another direction, but you actually do have to have the marketing piece for the creativity to all come together and be successful. Well, expound on that. Expound on the marketing piece. What do you mean?
Well, in order for your creativity, I mean, a lot of people do creative things, but you have to, like you were saying, the left brain and the right brain, you have to have the two connections, find some way to connect the two, so that as you bring it to market, as people accept it, as people approach it, they will want what your creativity has to offer them. So the two come together, and with the two coming together, you then begin to build a successful creative project, so to speak.
Is there any assignments or the quote-unquote homework that you would give your clients to help them with this process? Because, again, there's this vision of what creativity is, and as we just spoke of, creativity comes in all different forms. And so how do you elicit this information to get this vibe, to get this essence from your clients?
What I would suggest is we all have something deep down inside of us. And from time to time, it changes to some degree, because I've found that once you start on a journey, it evolves. It gets better, it changes, and often when a person starts out with a vision, it doesn't stay the same way. It turns into something else along the path, something better. So I would say to make a list of what you love, what you absolutely love doing. For a funny thing, for my son, he's seen me be a creative mom all of his life. And he said to me, I don't want to do what you do. But, you know, and he right now is writing, and he actually has a sports blog, which I laugh because although he thinks he's different, he's doing the same thing that I've done all of my life.
And I'm so glad you brought that up, because it is, again, an example of it's all the same thing. It's just clothed differently. It's just different.
Absolutely.
Just like humans. You know, we're all look different. We sound different. We walk and talk differently. But we're all human. So I really want to dispel the notion that only a certain type of person is creative. And not only that myth, but creativity is not something that everybody can do or everybody can learn or nurture and grow.
Oh, absolutely. That is absolutely right. Because no matter if you're technical or if you're a technical person, you know, there are all kinds of creativity that goes into. Someone had to be creative enough to create a hammer. Someone had to be creative enough to create a screw and a screwdriver. So when you think of all the things, when you look around your whole world, everything we have and use every day took a creative mind to put into visualization, into use for everyday purposes.
And then they talk about in creativity evolutionary ideas and the revolutionary ideas. The evolutionary ideas come from the first meal. Those people, that's something, you do something that comes from nowhere. It's never existed before. Or the printing press never existed before. But the revolutionary ideas are now we have word processors, so we don't have to use a printing press, putting all those different small pieces in, and so there are many ways that we can be creative. We don't have to think that, oh my God, I'm not thinking of the thing that's going to shake up the world, then I'm not being creative. Sometimes it's those incremental steps that move us from point A simply to point B. That if you hadn't been in the process, we'd never move to point B.
Absolutely.
Because you mentioned Apple before. There were MP3 players before Apple came out with their MP3 player. But when they came out with the iPod, that just blew. That became the standard. So everybody who had the who were creating MP3 players before, now you had to chase. Even though you may have been the evolutionary person, their revolutionary idea created an environment where now you have to be revolutionary.
Absolutely. Even computers existed before an Apple computer did. So
exactly,
you have to know that, you know, they're coming out now with information that said the Wright brothers were not the first who ever flew. So, you know, there's so much that you can do to contribute to the world, and the world needs it. So don't let your brain overthink it and say, oh, nobody needs this, because you have something to contribute. Don't close it in a closet.
I don't know why when you said that about the Wright brothers, it immediately made me think of the first person, guy or gal, who after years of saying that Pluto was a planet, did the measurements and said, well, not so much. I mean, because now, for years, Pluto was one of the planets. And now it is a star, or I guess it's a star, but it's no longer considered a planet.
Yeah.
And those are those things that, you're looking in a telescope all day, somebody might think that's mundane. But now you've discovered you've used data that I'm sure thousands of other people before you were accumulating, and you were able to see something in it that they may not have been able to see.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, whatever your creative bent is, there's a purpose for it. And I meet people all the time who have an idea, and someone says, it's already been done. But because your creativity is a function or a brainchild of you, you're going to do something different. There may be something out there that has a purpose like you want to do. Don't stop. Do you. Be creative. I tell everybody to be inspired.
All right, we're going to take another little break, and when we come back, I want you to give me 3 tips that you would give young people as it relates to creativity, to spark that, to whatever. 3 tips. So we'll be right back.
New or unknown music artists, we need you for the show. If you'd like your own mini concert, please send a request for information to realtalkforrealteens@gmail.com.
Okay. So we are ending our conversation with Lynn Thompson as she talks about creativity. And before we close, I wanted her to give 3 tips that you young people can use to develop, to discover, to whatever your own level of creativity.
Well, the first tip that I would say is to do something, one thing, every day. Just start a habit within whatever your creative bent is. Just one thing every day. The second thing I would say is journal your progress. You don't have to write volumes and volumes, but if you just jot down a note, just get you a notebook and just write down something that pertains to either what you did or what you discovered. And over time, the third thing would be to go back and review. Review from time to time the notes that you've created over time, the things that you've done. And I promise you, the more and more you do these 3 things, because they're all interrelated, the more and more you'll be convinced that you need to keep doing this. I also want to say that if you're in an age range, use your youth at your advantage, because being young is not a disadvantage, it's a huge advantage, because you've got time on your side, and time over time will give you best results. And just stay inspired. Surround yourself by inspiring people.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I had a conversation with a young man who just turned 21, and his whole thing was, I'm 21 now, so now I have to be serious. And he was just like, he so depressed me in that short. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I put my dreams aside. Whoa, what? You're 21. So I'm happy you brought that up, because as a young person, you know, we can't predict anything beyond, let's say we hope to all live a long, healthy life. But if let's say if you're going to check out of here at 80, at 21, how much time do you have?
Absolutely.
And so he saw that cutoff at 21 as some, now it's time for me to hang up my paint and pick up the mechanical pencil and go out and do this real thing. And that's another thing, people don't see creativity as quote unquote real.
Oh, I struggle with that every day.
It's something that, is very, touchy-feely and, not serious and, that whole thing.
Yeah, that's true. But I guess when you get in your 20s, I think what happens, you start to look around at your friends and you see, if they're not creative, they've got these jobs and they've got all these things, they get, kind of shiny metal syndrome where they want to run off and capture the world and the money so they can have the things. But in the end of the day, it's about your purpose. It's about your happiness. And at in your 20s, if you can hold on to that purpose, and if you have to have a job that to pay bills or something like that, that's okay. But don't lose sight of the purpose and the joy, because you need to have joy in your life. And I can't think of one thing that makes me more happier than being creative every single day.
Exactly. And on that note, we're going to end this conversation. I thank you so very much. I thank you for offering your time and your service to enlighten my audience about the 21st century skill of creativity. And I wish you well, and I thank you. So have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Kim, for the invitation. I could talk about this all day. As you can see, it is my passion.
Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening, and join us every Sunday through Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern for more Real Talk for Real Teens.